I see posts about this one all the time. A lot of veterans know that tinnitus is common. That doesn't mean that it's automatic as far as service connection. What they don't realize that it can also be part of a larger medical evidence discussion. It's described as ringing in the ears, but that definition is a little too simple. For many veterans, tinnitus is not just a sound. It can be constant, distracting, stressful, disruptive to sleep, disruptive to concentration, and overall give you a poor quality of life. Those pieces matter because once you look at tinnitus as more than just an isolated symptom, you start to see why secondary service connection sometimes comes into play in the conversation. But again, it's not automatic. Every veteran doesn't qualify for it. It's a careful review of your connection, your condition, and your situation. I want to be careful there and identify that because there are a lot of posts out there and videos saying the easiest claims to get, and this is always at the top of the list. You have to be careful and look at the evidence. So, tinnitus in some cases can be part of medically relevant chain of events. For example, chronic tinnitus may contribute to sleep disruption. Poor sleep can worsen fatigue, concentration, irritability, stress, and headaches. And this can apply to some veterans, but not all. Some have all of those things. Some have different symptoms, different relationships. In other cases, tinnitus may interact with things like anxiety, mood, or migraine patterns. So every case is very different. And the key phrase is medically supported relationship. That means we're not just stacking diagnoses together and hoping that there's a connection. That's what a medical professional is supposed to do. We're looking for a plausible, documented pathway supported by the veteran's actual history and medical records. This is why those records matter so much. Give me everything, I always say. We want to see everything. We want to be able to tease out what are all the factors that are contributing. So if a veteran has tinnitus and also has migraines, the analysis is not just these two conditions exist. That's bad coaching. That's illegal. That's not something that makes medical sense. The better question is, does the medical record show a pattern where the tinnitus symptoms appear to contribute to or worsen the headache symptoms? Is there sleep disruption documented or reported? Is there sensory overstimulation? Is there a documented clinical history that supports the connection? There are no shortcuts. Stop following down those rabbit holes. That kind of reasoning is much more useful. Another important concept here is functional impact. I talk about this a lot because it's extremely important. Tinnitus can be underestimated because people think it's just ringing in your ears. How does that impact you? Why does that even matter? But that ringing will interfere with sleep or your ability to focus, the ability to communicate with others, remain mentally calm, and that has functional consequences. Those functional consequences are often what helps explain why one condition may influence another. Why is one secondary to another? In your case, again, details matter. It's especially important for veterans because many veterans will also minimize their symptoms. They push through the pain. They normalize poor sleep. They normalize irritability. And they normalize concentration problems. We explain everything away as veterans. But from a medical documentation standpoint, those details matter and you need to talk to your doctors about them. You need to make sure that they're part of your medical record if they're happening to you. If the tinnitus is severe enough that it disrupts sleep, increases that stress, aggravates your headaches, or worsens your mental strain, then you should talk to your doctor and make sure it's documented clearly because that's what's really going to help your case. Nothing fancy. Here's where veterans need to be thoughtful. Not every possible secondary theory is equally as strong. Some are stronger when the records will show that consistent symptom history. You've seen your doctor over years. You have multiple documentation pieces to show that there's clear timing and there's medically reasonable explanation for this. Most people are missing that. The goal is not to force every claim into a specific secondary framework. That's cutting corners. That's easy. A lot of companies will do that, and that's not integrity. That's not a stand-up company to force you into these paths without the medical support behind it. The goal is to identify when and where the medical picture actually supports one. It's not a one-size-fits-all. That kind of approach will build credibility. It will ensure that your case is strong. If you have tinnitus and other ongoing symptoms, like migraines or sleep disruption, concentration problems, the right next step is to look at whether your records actually document those relationships in a medical useful way. And if not, go make an appointment with your doctor and make sure, say, hey, you haven't documented how this is how I feel.